insight into relationships and how you can make every relationship in your life extraordinary. We're not talking about just single, dating, married. We're talking about all of them, with your children, with your spouse if you have one, whatever relationships are in your life. So, and then Amber to have a question and answer time too. So if you have questions, go ahead and start writing those down, and then Scott's going to give you an opportunity to ask those questions, and they will give you responses. So Scott, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Scott Wessel, Director of Impact, everyone.
That turned off the buzz. How are you guys doing tonight?
Fantastic. Buzz is still here.
Leonard's doing good. Everybody else is trying to figure it out. Sorry, I have to clean up my area. You guys are like super far away. I know. It is buzzing like crazy.
Yeah, I couldn't figure it out. There we go.
I thought it was just me. I have to like get like all nice and close. You guys are super far away. Don't worry, I don't actually, not that close. I like you guys. How are you doing? My name is Scott. I am the pastor here at Impact, which we are a discipleship school. Give me a second, I'm trying to take over stuff. I really monotask. I don't know how to multitask. So like doing multiple stuff while I talk, like doing stuff while I talk is pretty much challenging. There we go, look at that. It's almost like I have people to help me. All right, you ready to dive in?
Yes.
Do I really want that there? I'll keep that there. So my name is Scott. Let me shut this door. So like when the ladies go to the bathroom, they don't have to like see me teaching. They're like, ooh. So my name is Scott. I am the pastor here at Impact 195, also The Gathering, which is the church that you're at. Welcome for coming, or thank you for coming. Welcome. I think that's still trying to catch up to my own self here. There are a lot of faces that I know, and so some of you, this might be a little bit just a refresher, but there are some new faces, so I will tell you a tiny bit about myself. I came from, it was a good family, but it was a little broken. I was abused by my stepdad. He was very violent, hit me a whole bunch of stuff. But it was a very like emotionally distant family. It's not that we didn't love each other. We do love each other, but it was, I always joke around that I was raised by wolves, right? Because we love each other, but we're not like super close. Like oftentimes, my mom now has dementia, but oftentimes not oftentimes, because I am a good son. Occasionally, I called her the day after her birthday to wish her a happy birthday. And one of the things that she would do is be like, give me a hard time. And my response would be, well, Mom, you totally missed my birthday. Like, you didn't even call me on mine. And I'm not mad. I wasn't hurt. It's just how we are in my family, right? This is getting warm. Perfect. Yeah, it is a hot topic. So, right? And as a result, I walk through life feeling like most relationships are transactional, right? I do have some very good friends. I've got 3 best friends throughout my life that I love, and we're super connected, but most of the time when I interact with people, it just feels kind of transactional. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, what's up? If I never see you again, my life is not going to be any different. And then not only that, I was really, really bad at dating. I dated the crazy women. All right. That's what I did. Like you'd be like, hey Scott, who's crazy in this room? And I'd tell you who it is because that's the one I was attracted to. Right? And eventually I got tired of the crazy women. And so I just swore off dating, and then I just slept around, right? And I broke a lot of people's hearts. I was the kind of guy that your mom told you to avoid. I was very, very mean. And basically, I used to be really bad at relationships, right? Dating, not so good. Just familial, friendship-wise, it just always felt like distant. There was always this distance inside of me with people. And if you're anything like me, you can relate. That their relationships aren't easy. In fact, it's the exception when people have good relationships, right? We don't have to give reasons why we have bad relationships. That just comes naturally, right? What we need to explain is how in the world do you have good relationships? Because that seems a little more difficult, and it's hard. And on top of that, relationships, a bad relationship can be one of the most frustrating, heartbreaking, gut-wrenching, and it doesn't even have to be like a romantic relationship, friends, family, just something about relationships can really just jack you up. And so our focus tonight is going to be two things. Number one, laying a biblical foundation for how to have great relationships. And this is going to require, number one, for some of us, a paradigm shift, how to think differently about certain things. But one of the biggest things about relationships is that we need an emotional shift, right? We have emotional commitments to certain things. And sometimes we just don't like giving up those the emotional commitments. I have a somebody I used to work with that recently OD'd on drugs, right? And they were talking about how they were playing around with drugs and stuff. And people would talk to her, and her response would be, yes, I know this is bad. I know this is wrong. But I just really like it. I just want to do it. And now she OD'd, right? But she's not the only one that said that, right? Many of us have said, like, I know this relationship is bad for me, but you know what? I'm still not going to listen to anybody and just do it, right? Because sometimes what we really need is the shift in our emotions, what we are emotionally committed to. And that's one of the biggest challenges in relationships. We're emotionally committed to stuff, and that usually drives the car off the cliff. And for some reason, we never learn. Oh, I forgot. If you've got questions, I'm going to be talking about stuff. If you have questions, you can text them to this, and then at the end, you're going to be able to ask me and somebody who's super smart questions too. You'll get a male perspective and a female perspective. So go ahead, because I know the reason why we're doing this is because relationships, usually people have like 5 million questions, so that's your way to do it. Cool? So number one, a mental paradigm shift. Number two, emotional shift. And number three, I'm going to be giving you some practical tools that you can start implementing right away to begin to have great relationships. Does that sound good? Yeah. You ready for the ride?
Ready.
Once again, only Leonard. Okay. I'll just move over here and teach him.
Right.
I love the fact that this has wheels. Let's go to the biblical foundation. I'm assuming most of us are believers, but we just need to lay the biblical foundation really quick about relationships, make sure we're on the same page, yada, yada, yada. So number one, God is in relationship within himself, right? He's in eternal relationship within the Trinity. The Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit are in relationship. They have been in relationship since in their aseity. It's your big fancy word. That's God in the pre-creational state. Number 2, that we are created for relationships. Just like God created us in his image, just the fact that he is relational, he created us for the need for a relationship. You see this in Genesis 2, verse 18, right? Where God creates Adam, and then after he looks at Adam, he says something. What does he say? It is not good. And the question that you should ask yourself is, in what way was Adam alone? He had God. He had a perfect relationship with God. No sin. He got to walk with him daily. He has the kind of relationship that most of us dream about with God, but God says what? Adam needs someone besides God. He created Adam with a need for someone besides God, that only another human can fulfill that need for Adam. Right? We are created with a requirement. Now here's the bad part. The fall kind of screwed it all up for us, right? The fall is sin. In Genesis chapter 3, verses 7 through 19, the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and then they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. They heard the sound of God. This is Genesis 3, 7 through 19. In the cool of the day, and then they hid themselves. And then God says, yo, where you at? And Adam said, I heard you, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid myself. And God says, who told you were naked? And Adam said, she made me do it. And then Eve said, the serpent made me do it. Right? And what you see straight away is once sin entered the world, that the first response is to be ashamed of your vulnerability and hide from each other. But not just hide from each other, we also hide from God. You try, you can't. But it's one of the things that happens. We hide our vulnerability, we hide from God, we start blame shifting. Instead of taking responsibility, we point our fingers at everybody else for our own choices and our own problems. And then if you keep reading, there is friction and enmity in the relationship. That one of the consequences for Eve is that she is going to want to rule over her husband, but he is going to rule over her. And there's this conflict, a battle of wills. Who's going to get their way, right? Who gets to hold the TV remote? And what's crazy is what we long for, the very thing that we long for is to be known, and to be accepted, and to be loved, right? And just to be able to be like, this is who I am with somebody, which is the exact same thing that we are terrified of. The very thing we want the most is also the very thing that freaks us out the most. And that's the result of sin. And then, not only that, you have Cain and Abel. Right following that, you've got this great story about destructive relationships. Cain, if you're unfamiliar, Cain and Abel made offerings. Abel's God accepted. Cain's, God not so much. We're not told any information really about why. It might have been he was half-hearted. It might have been that he didn't offer the best. It might have been, who knows why. God just said, yours doesn't meet the standard. Cain's does. And he got resentful. I realize in this story, Abel is the ideal, right? He's the ideal. This is what it looks like to be acceptable to God. This is the standard, and your brother meets it, you don't. And so for Cain, Abel revealed his own inadequacies. Right? We do that all the time with people. We see people who are in some area that are better than us. And we feel that their achievement, their idealness in this one area is somehow a threat to ourselves, and we get really insecure. It's the same thing that Cain did. And instead of trying to grow in that relationship, in that area of his life, and reach the ideal himself, reach God's standards, instead of putting forth the effort, what he does is he removes Cain out of his life. Oh yeah, he removed Abel. Right? Which is basically what we do all the time, especially on social media. We kill people all that you're like, ooh, right? And we call it all kinds of, oh, you're just being an ableist. You're just being this, you're just being that. And what we do as humans, we see this ideal that we don't meet, so we hate it. That's one of the falls. And you see people and you're like, oh, I don't like you because you show me, you touch on my inadequacies and my issues, and so there's something wrong with you. And that's another cause of the fall. Luckily, Jesus came and saved us, and so there's a new standard, New Testament standards for our relationships. Right? Romans 12:18 says, if it is possible, as much depends on you, be at peace with everybody. Live at peace as much as possible. Put in as much effort as you can. Don't get crazy with other people. Have a good relationship with other people. Ephesians says, be at peace. Oh, I already read that one. Endeavor to keep the unity. That's the one I'm on. Ephesians 4:3 says, endeavor or work hard to keep the unity of the Spirit between each other. And then, of course, you've got the 59 one another's in the New Testament. There's 59 commands that tell us to love one another, forgive one another, serve one another, pray for one another, yada, yada, yada. 59 of them telling us how we should be interacting with each other. And then, of course, if you want to stay Old Testament, the entire book of Proverbs. Basically, the entire book of Proverbs is how to interact with people, how to navigate your relationships. All right? God has given us a lot. So, the benefits of having a good relationship, I don't know if you know this, you probably do. Number one is better mental and physical health. Number two, which is kind of crazy, quicker healing. Do you know that if you get injured and you've got good relationships, your body will heal faster than people with bad relationships? I never knew that. And I just thought it was old age, the reason why I heal slower. You'll have a longer life. You'll have support through difficulties. And basically the quality of your life will go up. Right? And the reason why your quality, all those things happen is because you and I were created for relationships. And when we have good relationships, it brings life into our life. All right, you ready to dive in now?
Yeah.
Perfect. We are going to talk about the foundational relationship. The foundational relationship. Any guesses as to what it is? Friendship. For us, because remember, we're talking about these relationships, not these relationships today. The foundational relationship in our lives is friendship. I know you came here hoping to be able to hook your holy hottie. And she might be here, I don't know. But stay with me. So, here's just some statistics from friendships. You ready? You are 2.5 times more likely to enjoy your job if you have one friend at work. You're I lied. if you're friends with your boss. If you have 3 friends at work, you're 96 more. You're 96. So all you need is 3 friends at work. You're 96% more likely to feel happy about your life. Not your job, your life. If you've got 3 people that you work with that you like, your entire outlook on life will be better. Isn't that crazy? Just from being just 3 friends. Right? They did all these studies, more money versus for like if I get a raise, I'll be more happy. Do you know how much money you need to earn, extra money you need to earn if you just spend more times with your friends? They've done this out. You need a $96,000 raise. To equal the happiness that money brings, you need $96,000 that just having more time with your friends will bring you naturally in your life. Kind of crazy, huh? Marriage. You came here to have good marriages. The number one thing that everybody reports for a happy, successful marriage is friendship. I know in our society we all talk about sex, right? You need to have like a good sex life. When I was about to marry my wife, I was a server, and some of them servers, they were just shocked that I, number one, didn't live with my wife or my fiance, and number 2, that we had never had sex. They're like, how do you might get married and the sex might be horrible. Right? It's just this inconceivable idea that the most important thing about romantic relationships is good sex. Now, sex is fun. I will grant you that. But the true satisfaction in a marriage is solely built on friendships. As a matter of fact, when you have a good friendship in a marriage, you will report even having more romance in your relationships. And if you don't have friends, there's actually health risks associated with not having friends. Not having friends, feeling lonely on a regular basis, you know what it's like? Smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That's your health risk. Basically, if you're lonely and have no friends, your life expectancy is as good as a pack-a-day smoker. Crazy, huh? They did a 2006 breast cancer study. They broke the women into 2 groups. Women that have 10 or more friends and women that have less than 10 friends. What's crazy is women with 10 or more friends had 4 times the survival rate. 4 times the survival rate. And guys, husbands, I've got bad news for you. 0%. It doesn't. We have no effect on cancer, breast cancer survivability. There is 0. We impact it 0. Friends do. And vice versa, men with heart disease are far less likely to die of heart attacks and have heart disease if they've got good established friends in their lives. And once again, wives, 0 statistics. Like it doesn't increase or decrease if you have a wife. It's the friends that do it. Now here's the big challenge with friends, having friendships. You ready? I don't know how to get any. No, just kidding. Friendship's not very well defined. And on top of it, it's not just not very well defined, the expectations vary widely from person to person. And on top of that, it's uncomfortable negotiating. Like, hey, this is what I really need from you, okay? If we want to be friends, this is the deal. You need to call me at least twice a day. Right? You don't have those conversations. You don't negotiate what you need. You're just like, can we be friends? And there's this awkward, are we compatible? It's like worse than dating, right? And as a result, friendships are fragile. Without care, they wilt and die. And the stats actually say that in 7 years, half of your friends will be no more for you. 7 years, half of your friends that you currently have, out of the picture. They'll drift away. But here's the cool part about friendship. Because of its fragility, that's what makes it so great. All these other relationships, right? Your family, there's obligation. Your boss, obligation. Friendship is one of the only relationships where there's no obligation and either person can walk away at any moment. And because of that, it is one of the purest relationships around. Right? Relationships are also a mutually giving relationship, right? It's not quid pro quo. It's not like I do this for you, so I'm expecting you to do something for me. We don't keep track. We don't keep score in relationships, right? It's one of the only ones that we do. I know, like married couples, you pretend there's a big portion that's not transactional in marriage, but there's certain things. If I don't clean up after the kids when my wife asks me to, there's like a, hey, what are you doing? Right? With my kids, they are expected to do stuff. And yes, there is I'm not keeping score mostly, but sometimes I do. Sometimes, like, I picked up the kids for 3 weeks in a row, it's your turn. Right? But with friendships, we don't keep score. And even the idea or thought of keeping tabs, you feel like, oh no, there's something wrong with that. Right? So just really quick, because some of you have abusive using friends, and in certain circumstances, it is okay to realize that this river is only flowing in one direction and do something about it, okay? I'm just talking about the norm. And the ultimate quality of friendship is what's called self-expansion. This is why friendships are so great. Self-expansion is where you see the other person as part of yourself. Right? Your cognitive representation of yourself and other people begin to overlap. And the boundaries between you and other people begins to blur. If you've ever lost somebody close to you, either through death or they moved away or whatever, you sometimes experience this idea that I've lost a part of myself. Because what we do is we merge with people, and I don't see you as a friend, I don't see you as you, when I see you as part of me somehow. That I've brought you into my own conscious idea of who I am. They've done studies with women in MRIs, and the same area of their brain that lights up when they think about themselves lights up when their best friend's name is mentioned. Our brains begin to adapt and absorb the people that we're closest to, and they become literally a part of us. So how do we actually develop friends? It's not about being likable. Honestly, being likable is super easy. If anybody ever read Winning Friends and Influencing People?
How to Win Friends.
Whatever it is, it's good. How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a super great book. It's super easy. If you have problems getting people to like you, I can show you like 4 things to do, and they will like you instantly. It's not a big deal to get people to be like, oh, Chris is kind of cool, right? Not only is it not that big of a deal, con men use it all the time, right? Charlie Manson, ever heard of him? He was a big fan of how to win friends and influence people, right? He did really the influence people part, but because it's easy. Those things are easy to do, right? One of my favorite things, I found this out I read this amazing book it was a CIA guy that was in charge of getting people to turn into spies for the United States and other areas. You know what the easiest thing to do to get people to instantly warm up to you is when you look at them? Just flash your eyebrows real quick. You'll watch them. Go up to a clerk at your store, any store you go to, especially when, I love doing this when they have hard days, and you walk up and you just go, hi. And all of a sudden their face goes, oh, wow. Somebody actually is going to look at me and talk to me. That's amazing. Right? It's not hard. It is, and just a quick, no, that's not like this. It's just a quick, oh, hey. Right? And it's super easy. And the reason why we like those techniques is because they're easy and the investment isn't very great. But here's the deal. Friendship requires what's called a costly signal. Right? So we're all signaling constantly. What you wore today, you wore it because you want to signal something. What you talk about, and the words you use because you want to signal something. Right? The reason why I like big words is because I grew up in special ed classes feeling stupid. And so I use big words to just kind of make I'm not stupid. I know what sesquipedalian means. Right? And every once in a while you just put it in. You're like, see, I'm smart, no matter what my stepdad or the school said. Right? And the words you choose, you signal. We're constantly signaling things about ourselves. Right? Some of you are like freaking out, like, what did I signal today? But here's the deal. You want not an easy signal, like an eyebrow flash. That's easy. For a friendship, it requires a costly signal, something that is going to require you of stuff, right? So for example, I can tell you how tough I am, right? I'm a super tough guy. I do Muay Thai, right? How much does that cost me? Nothing. But if I show you my fight footage, and you can watch me get TKO'd, you would change your opinion. That was a cost. Eating a fist and being knocked down and almost out, it was a costly signal for me. Right? And if I show you that footage, if don't want to get too embarrassed, I'll show you the footage and then you would be like, oh wow, he actually was in a fight. Okay, I'm not gonna make him mad. Right? And then the same thing is we need to have costly friendship signals as well. There are two of them. Number one, time. Time is on my side. Who sang that? Does anybody know? Who sang that?
Stones.
Stones, there you go. Perfect. I didn't actually know, Fretz. I was just, if there's somebody. Time. And you know what the number one conflict in friendships are? Time. You don't have time for me. My heart breaks for my wife because sometimes she gets people that want to be friends with her be like, you don't have time for me. But that's the big thing. The big thing for friends is like, you don't have time. But you know what? When you are married or you're going to school or you're whatever, or just like when you get married. Anybody recently married or thinking about getting married? No hands? There's a half a hand. I get it, bro. Just like, she didn't see it. You're fine. Right? So what happens when you're married is you get married and then you're spending all your time with them. And even those of you who were married in the past, what did you do with all your friends? In the 30s is where friendships go to die because you get married and you're like, I just don't have the time. When you have tons of time, you know what happened? You know, the very first relationship that gets cut when you're stressed on time is friends. And that is also one of the important things that it requires. Right? So how much time? How much time does a friendship need? You ready? They've done research on this. If you just want to have a light friendship, it's going to cost you 60 hours to develop a light friendship. 60 hours total, and then you will go into...
A year? Like, are you talking like a
Well, it's not like over 5 years. let's just say, I don't know what the time frame is, 60 hours. You can do that fast or slow, probably not over a decade, that wouldn't work. But at roughly 60 hours, like how often when you meet a new person do you hang out with until they become your friends? Month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months? Don't say 2 days, because then there's something wrong with you. Okay? If you want to be good friends, not just light friends, but good friends, you know how much that investment costs? 100 hours. Just to be good friends. But if you want that coveted BFF award, over 200 hours. Like, it's a serious commitment. You want friends? Some of us are like, oh, no wonder why I don't have any friends. I don't have that. Who has 200 hours to just spend on people? It's absolutely out of control. So this is one of the things to do. Friendship requires time. And this is one of the keys that you need to do in your life. You ready? Include your friends in your routines. That's the easiest way to do it. You work out with a friend. That's the only example I could think of. Grocery shopping. Perfect. Right? Think about your home gathering. Yeah. Think about oh, by the way, so George does it all the time in church. So if anybody wants to come to my home gathering, you can. It's up in Carlsbad. And at that point, most people are like, oh, all right, good luck with that. But you can come if you want. If you're in North County, you can come to my home gathering. So think about what you're already doing in life, and who are the people you can involve in that. And you will be able to nurture your friends. The sweet spot for friends is at a minimum of once every 2 weeks you connect, right? Which is awesome. I mean, think about that. If you just connected once every 2 weeks with your spouse, they wouldn't be your spouse for long, right? But with a friend, some friends you can go 6 weeks, and then you reconnect and they're like, so good to see you. So once every 2 weeks. All right, a great example is Emily. Emily is our family friend. And what she has done is she has inserted herself into our family routine and schedule. Every Monday she comes over and babysits our kids. Right? And she watches the kids, then we eat dinner together, and we sit around and talk for a while. She has a boyfriend now, so we haven't seen her in a while. 7 years, I don't know. Are you going to cut me off 7 years? When she gets married, I'll probably she won't even show up to Impact. So, and what happens is she's made it part of her schedule, just a routine to come and hang out, and it's part of our schedule, right? And when her schedule shifted and changed, both her and us, my wife and I, were like, oh, we miss our times. And so do that. Figure out places that you can just start in your routine schedule where you can insert time for friends. Because if not, and if you're a guy, this is especially important. Most guys, when you hit 50 to 60, you have 0 friends. 1 to 0. Okay, your family is your only outreach. They're your only people. So figure it out, gentlemen. So number 2 is vulnerability. So time, and the second key costly signal is vulnerability. How you talk to your friends is important. You know what I mean by that is small talk will not get a friendship anywhere. You can spend 60 hours with somebody with just small talk and not be friends with them, right? You do that with some of your people at work. You've been around them for years and you don't care about them, right? Because it's just weather and this and that. So here's the deal. Trust is the precondition for trust. Trust is the precondition for trust. What that basically means is vulnerability begets vulnerability. If you want a friendship that has trust, guess what you need to do? Trust. That you cannot infuse something into the relationship that you are unwilling to do. That you have to be vulnerable if you want a friendship that has vulnerableness, vulnerability. But here's the good news. You don't have to share all your deep, dark, personal secrets. You don't have to let them know how horrible and ugly you think you are on the inside. At least not right away. Right? And you'll find that you're really, really good friends, that you will share the deep, hard, ugly stuff. But you don't have to share anything ugly right away. You just need to share a little bit, right? For an example, my schedule is absolutely crazy. My wife and I have full-time jobs. We homeschool our 3 young children, and all 3 children are in 6 different sports. 3 kids, 6 sports. And honestly, I barely make it through the day. Something is always dropping through the cracks, and I regularly fight the thoughts that I am failing in different areas of my life. Do you like me better now? Right? So this is what happens is there's this thing called a beautiful mess. Right? And we're trying to, especially as Christians, because we have to have it all together. We share and we're like, no, everything's great and it's fine. People can't know anything about me, what I'm really going through. Right? And I didn't get deep, by the way. I just told you just stress points in my life. But when somebody else shares the same exact thing, how do you respond to them? It makes you like them more. You're like, oh, I struggle with that too. We're the same. Right? And so what happens is we refuse to share those things because we think no, I have to be thought of in a certain way. I need to have my stuff together. But the reality is they struggle with the same exact things. And it might not be the exact, but they struggle with the same emotions. And the same self-doubt and the same stresses right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what we just did, I don't know if you know this or not, we just merged. Well, I mean, you and I didn't merge, I merged with you. You haven't shared anything with me, so there's no merging going this way. But that's what happens, you share a little bit, and those of you who have ever felt like a failure, those of you who have a crazy schedule, you're like, oh, me too. We're the same. No, I got great news for you. There's a shortcut to all this. There is a doctor who in 45 minutes, not 200 hours, 45 minutes, was able to produce the feelings of lifelong friends and people in 45 minutes. There's a series of questions that he had them sit down and ask. Right? And the questions are pretty simple. The first one is, it's not share your deepest, darkest secret. The first one is, if you could invite anybody over to your house to have a dinner party, who would it be? Right? It's just insightful questions that make you oh, I really think this, and this is why I think this. And then every once in a while, it has what I think is the key, is the how are we similar questions? Where you're okay, so we just answered 5 questions. What are the touch points between you and me? Right? And it causes people to be oh, wow, and in 45 minutes, people walk away feeling like they have they're lifelong friends with this person. Wouldn't you like to know the questions? How many of you would like to know those questions? There you go. You can, I am personally memorizing some of these questions because they're good. They're non-threatening, good questions. Just to like be like, hey, if you could invite any, okay, I'll be honest, I only memorized the first one. But I ask it over and over. So if you want that, it'll be sent to you. It'll be text message to you. Everybody, what do you guys?
It's not working.
Becky.
Hey, let's text a keyword to that phone number that you do that.
Questions. So the question, we're switching things up. So the tech. Slow down. Back up. The phone number for questions. Just text the word relationship to it, and it will be emailed to you.
What's the phone number?
338-7090.
Did you get that? Do you need it again?
Text impact. Sorry.
That's impact.
Text the word impact.
Sorry, word impact.
I'm confused.
Text impact to that number. Or you can talk to Becky, she's going to give it to you. All right, so how does all of this deal with relationships? So this is what you can do with some of your relationships that you're in. You can either tell them you're asking those questions or just, because it's kind of creepy to be like, hey Chris, you want to sit down for 45 minutes? We can ask questions together? It's supposed to help us bond. Like that's cool for a girl, maybe. I don't know what you girls do. But for guys, it's a little weird. But it's a great place to be able to just start having really good questions. So, romantic relationships. Are you ready for dating relationships? Yes. How does all this apply to dating? Friendships is the most foundational. It's going to cost you time and vulnerability. It'll help you live longer. I already covered all that stuff. I don't know why I'm reviewing it. Dating. Here's the deal with dating. Please, somebody, give me a verse in the Bible about dating.
What's the one in Song of Solomon about?
No, that's not. It's not necessarily about dating. That's about engagement. So why is there no Bible verses in the Bible? Bible verses in the Bible. Why are there no Bible verses about dating?
Wasn't really a thing.
It wasn't a thing. Completely different culture. Did not exist. Not a thing. Foreign. Right? We basically created dating. So you can't find any Bible verses that give you instruction about dating. So here's the question. If you're not getting your direction and information from the Bible, where are you getting it from? Where are you getting it from? Right?
Other people that have been through it.
It's this concept that our culture made up. And so you look to our culture to inform you. Right? So there's a problem with that. The culture sometimes gets it right, and a lot of times gets it wrong, because it doesn't have a biblical perspective. So here's how we deal with dating. Absence of a clear teaching in the Bible, we need to be guided by biblical principles and wisdom. That's what God gave us our brains for. Biblical principles and wisdom, right? So there are a few biblical principles that we can look at in the Bible to help us put some guardrails on this relationship that didn't exist when the Bible was written. Okay? You ready? Number 1, Colossians 2:10. You are complete in Christ. How does that relate to dating? Yes, if you are looking for others to complete you, you have no business dating. The only thing that you will do is cause injury and harm to other people. That's it. There's just going to be a wake of destruction behind you. You need to find your completeness in Christ before you even step onto the dating field. If not, I'll have you say it. If not, if you're okay with dating and hurting people, what does that make you?
Narcissist?
A big meanie. No, just, here's a question. Knowing that you are incomplete but you're willing to date people and you're going to mess them up, is that moral or immoral? It is wrong. It is evil to do something knowing that it will cause hurt to somebody else. It's just straight up wrong. Now here's the problem, people that are incomplete, they don't care. Some of you are like, I'm still gonna date. That's something between you and God you have to work out. Number 2, Galatians 6:5, bear your own burden. What does that mean? You should work on yourself before you go looking for your holy hottie. If you are not mature enough to bear your own load in life, what are you doing when you're dating? You're forcing them to bear your burden for you. Right? Mostly this is about guys. Learn to pay your rent, pay your bills, keep your lights on. For God's sake, learn to do your own laundry. Right? Learn to be a well-functioning human. That you are able to take care of yourself adequately. Bear your own burden, because if not, and you're a guy, you're not actually going to get a girlfriend or a wife, you're just going to get a mother. And you know what she's going to do? She's going to end up hating you. Is that the kind of relationship and marriage you want? Learn to bear your own burdens before you step out. Right? And as you bear your own burdens, this is what you should do. Are you ready? I got this from Jordan Peterson. I love him. He's got this. So we all have this inner critic, right? Everybody has an inner critic? Your inner critic, mostly when in church we talk about inner critic in a negative light. Realize that we all have it because it's supposed to be helpful. Sin causes it to get out of control and condemn us, but it's actually there. It's supposed to help us. It's supposed to keep us moving onward and upward, right? So this is, if you have an inner critic, you just ask yourself a few questions. You look at your life, and you're like, I'm unable to bear my own burdens, right? And I was living in my car. My phone always got shut off because I couldn't pay the bill. Like I was horrible. I was a train wreck. So I'm not like you guys. I learned the hard way. So ask yourself. You can't fix everything. Just ask yourself, what is there in my life that I need to fix? Right? And different things will present themselves to you. And be like, oh, some of it will be internal, some of it will be external. Right? If you're the kind of person that threw all your dishes away and bought paper plates because you couldn't wash dishes, that's an external problem. That's really an internal problem that is coming out externally. So let's do that. The dishes, your roommate hates you because you never wash the dishes. Right? So ask yourself, what could I do to improve myself? And then the second question is, what am I willing to do? Because a lot of times, this is where the critic gets crazy, is we're like, what should I do? And the critic's like, here's 25 things, and you have to start on all of them tomorrow. Right? So what can I do, and what actually would I do? Right? So if there's a pile of papers that you haven't gone through, and it's got bills and all kinds of crazy stuff, you're like, okay, I need to address that. I've been procrastinating on this pile of papers for 4 months. I need to do something about it. Well, what am I willing to do? Can I look at it for 20 minutes? No, I'm not going to look at it for 20. 10 minutes? No, I'm not going to. 2 minutes. Can you do it for 2 minutes, Scott? I can do it for 2 minutes. Right? And so find out what you're actually willing to do on that. And then here's a super important part. You ready? After you do it, reward yourself. I know, it's like, reward myself for 2 minutes? Yes. Right? What reward? Is it going to Starbucks and getting a coffee? Is it watching the next Mandalorian when it comes out? I'm so excited for that, by the way. Is it like what? And reward yourself for the progress. And instead of letting your inner critic beat you up, use it to help you move forward. Next one. 1 Timothy 5:2, so it says, treat women, older women, like mothers, younger women, like sisters, men, older men, like fathers, and younger men, like brothers. You should treat the opposite sex like they're your brother or sister. What do I mean by that? Well, Song of Solomon also goes into that. 4:8, do not arouse or awaken love before it's time. That there is a certain time when romance is appropriate to initiate. Before then, you should stay friends for as long as possible. Right? Establish solid friendships with people before you cross the romance boundary. Right? Our common practice in America is that we're like, oh, I like that person, so I'm going to start dating them and I'll get to know them. And we shoot ourselves in the foot because romance ruins friendships. It gets weird. It gets ugly. It's like, did he really say that? He said that, but what did he mean? I don't know what he mean. Right? And we get all insecure. You're laughing because you know what I'm talking about. Right? Yes, exactly. Romance ruins friendships. And so what you should do is build good friendships. Right? So this is wisdom. Establish a solid friendship, and once you start thinking, this person is the most amazing person I've ever met in my entire life, that's when you say, hey, I want to marry you. And that other person will already be like, speed it up, dude. But that's how dating should be. That you should try to be friends for as long as possible. This is what my wife and I did. We dated for a while, and then we went through a program similar to this one, and we stopped dating for a year. Most people didn't even know that we were dating. We sat at different tables and all that stuff. It was the best choice we ever made in our life. We just put the brakes on all the romance, just friends. We developed a super deep, amazing friendship, and our marriage is super solid because of it. Marriage, let's talk about marriage real quick. You ready? Genesis 2:18 and verse 24. The whole point and purpose of marriage is to have a suitable companion, and the two shall become one. The core is companionship or friendship. It's the foundation of a good marriage. So if you are married, guess what you should be doing? Nurturing your friendship. And it's tough. With kids and work and school and blah, 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 and sports, and the list goes on and on and on and on. It's easy to like just become work partners. The children are the work, and we're just like, we work in this house. All right, what are you gonna do? Let's divide the jobs. Great, high five. I'll see you as we fall asleep next to each other. Right? Or just to become roommates. And if you have a really good friendship, your marriage can survive that for a while, but eventually the friendship will begin to fade. That it needs regular investments. Right? So here's a couple things that you can do. Don't just talk about the kids, work, family schedule, etc., etc., etc. Right? Yes, all that stuff needs to be talked about. Talk about more than just that. Number 2, practice spontaneous vulnerability. Right? This is the easy part. Share and laugh about your embarrassing moments. I just did this today. I had the car in reverse. I thought it was in forward, and I came inches from slamming into the parked car behind me. Right? And be like, babe, I'm so stupid. I can't believe what I just did. Right? It's the beautiful mess. Share the mess with them. Because as you share their mess, they're going to be like, oh, you're beautiful. Right? So practice just the spontaneous, hey, let me tell you how stupid I was at work today. Right? And then set some time each week to share deeper things. Each week, when your schedule's crazy, at least once a week, just sit down and share like, these are the things God's teaching me, these are my struggles, let's just talk about deeper stuff. Right? And then another thing, this is my third thing, laugh together and laugh a lot. The reason why we hang out with our friends is because we enjoy them. They make us happy. So make sure you are injecting happiness into your marriage. Be goofy and crazy. Tools, let's talk about tools. I'm gonna be 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes. Conflict styles. Let's talk about conflict styles. So in your friendships / marriages / dating / whatevs, and this is mostly romantic relationships, but there's 3 different conflict styles people have in general. The first one is called volatile. Right? These are the loud, explosive. They like to yell. Think like typical characteristic Italian, right? Hey! Non farmi arrabbiare. What I was going to say was actually a cuss word in Italian. I'm like, ooh. Hopefully nobody knows Italian. I was about to say something bad. I worked in an Italian restaurant, and they taught me they can cuss. Like, it's beautiful the way they cuss. It's like, so, you're like, what? But that was before I'm saved. Now that I'm saved, it's horrible. But you're just like, wow, that is like creative. They're super creative. We're just like, F the. So it's the volatile style is I'm mad and I need to emote, right? The second style is the negotiator. All right, you have a problem, I have a problem, let's sit down, talk about it. Well, what about this? What about this? Let's do that. Wait, can you do that? The last one is the avoider. Conflict happens, and then we don't really talk about it, don't address it, sweep it under the rug. Now, some of you already have preconceived notions that only one of them is acceptable. All 3 work. If, and this is the if, they're paired together. Volatile works with volatile. I've got a couple that is very volatile. And sometimes it makes me feel very uncomfortable. They are okay with having conflict right in front of people. Like they just, So anyway, I was, right? But it works because they're both paired, negotiated. And here's the deal. Some of you are like, I don't want to be volatile. Volatile people have the most intense romance. They're passionate. So like, if you're like, I don't want to yell, they have better sex than everybody else. These are relationships. We're not allowed to talk about that? The kids are in the prayer room. It's fine. Negotiators, most people are like, we can negotiate. There's less conflict, so to speak. There's no yelling. But there's also less romance and passion. Right? There's less romance and passion. And there's always a trade-off. And then the avoiders, they are great. I know people that avoid. I'm not. It works. I know a couple that I'm like, how do you guys like? They're like, yeah, we like have an issue, and then we never revisit it again. But their relationship's great. They've got a good. They've been married for like 10 years. They're great, right? The problem comes when you mix and match your styles, right? A volatile person will be like, oh, and the negotiator's like, whoa, can we just talk? You don't have to say crazy stuff. Let's just talk about this. Why are you? And the volatile person's like, why are you emotionless? This doesn't upset you? Are you a vampire? I'm going to go get a stake. Put it through your heart. And the avoider, right? So a volatile will just chase an avoider around. They'll be like, give me something. Emote for me. Tell me how you're feeling. And they're like, But when they get paired together, they work. And here's the beautiful thing about conflict styles. You choose them. Whatever conflict style you grew up with, good news is you can choose a different one. Right? This is one of the things I always go over in premarital. Choose what type of conflict you want to have. If you want to yell. It's cool. If you want to avoid. Both of you need to do it. Right? So choose the conflict. Choose how you want to do it. And then set conflict norms or rules. Right? So these are the rules of engagement when we are mad at each other. Right? The girl would be like, no walking away. And the guy would be like, no walking away after 10 minutes. Right? And figure out, okay, this is how we want to fight. You actually need to think about that. You need to talk about that. You will fight. Figure out how you want to do it. Does that make sense? Next one is a positivity override. What this basically means is to assume the best about people. Assume the best. And this doesn't just work you should be doing this with everyone, not just your significant relationships. There's this quote I love that says, everybody is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Everyone you meet, they've got issues. They're going through stuff. And if somebody is mean to you, it's not because that they are morally deficient. Right? We usually they did that. You know why they did that? Because they're just mean and evil and give them the benefit of the doubt. They're probably just having a bad day. That's why they were rude. Right? As your friendships, they probably just have a lot going on in life. That's why they haven't reached out to me in 6 weeks. Or your husband or your wife, they're probably just stressed out. That's why they're yelling at all the kids and me. Right? On Sunday, it's funny, I had never dressed up for church, but on Sunday I did, because my wife was like, my kids tried to come in shirts that they had been wearing for 3 or 4 days. This is my boys. The girl was fine. And basketball shorts. And my wife and they're fighting. The kids are talking back for 10 minutes. And I hear them and I'm I was taking out my nice sweatpants. for church? I was like, I don't want to get into, I'm putting my nice clothes on. Not to be an example for the kids. I just didn't want to get yelled at. Right? And you just assume, okay, my wife is just stressed right now for whatever reason. She's not mean. There's nothing this is like, she now yells and snaps. It's usually about driving, getting places on time. She'll yell and snap at me, but now I'm at this place where I realize she's just expressing her frustration. She's just frustrated at the thing, and she's just, it's not, Scott, I hate you, you screwed up. And it's just like, it kind of, the hurtness of it just goes in one ear and out the other. And just like, she'll be fine in 5 minutes. Get in the car, say nothing, we're good. Right? Assume the best about people, not the worst. Next one. You want to be good at making bids for connection. All right? Giving and receiving. Bids for connection are basically, hey, can I interact with you? Right? A bid for connection, I already showed you one. The eyebrow flash. It says, hey, I want to connect right now, can I? Right? It could be a smile, could be a handshake, could be sitting down next to somebody. But the real important part is not just the sending, it's the receiving. There's 3 different ways that you can receive a bid for connection. And they've actually done studies. This one guy with 93% accuracy, he can listen to a 15-minute conversation between a couple and determine 93% accuracy if they're still going to be together in 5 years. Wow. Just based off of how they respond to each other's bids for connection. Right? There's 3 of them. Number 1, turn towards. There's a turning towards. Right? If I look at Michael and be like, right? That was a turn towards. Right? It's when I like, hey, how are you doing? Is this seat taken? And you would say, you'd say yes. Because they're there. James, is that seat taken next to you?
No.
Perfect. He turned towards me. It feels warm and welcoming. Like, yeah, I do actually want to engage.
Absolutely.
Right? That's the turn towards. The second one is the turn away. Right? This is where you go to try and like do a bid for connection. This is what you do to people in supermarkets, walking down the street all the time. Right before you get too close, you'll be generally looking at their face. And then when you get too close, and then the head comes back up, right? That is a turning away. Right? When somebody's like, hey, and you're like, ooh, no. Right? We do that sometimes when we're just busy. Right? When, great example, Sharissa, she was over here, standing over there, and I walked over to talk to Becky, and she gave me like this, and I was like, hey, what's up? Okay, I have to do other stuff. I am trying to figure out how to print my notes right now. I don't have time. That was a turning away. Right? Sometimes it's just because we're busy. We're like, I don't have time for you, sorry. And then the third is a turning against. Right? This is you come home and you're like, hey honey, how was the day? How was the day today? And they're just like, how was my day? Well, I'm stuck here with 3 kids while you get to go have fun at work. What do you think my day was like? Right? Where it's an aggressive. So turning towards is very open and warm. Turning away is cold. And turning against is an aggressive, let's fight. I'm mad at you. No matter what you say, we're going to end up in a fight kind of thing. Right? Think mean girl. Now, here's the deal. The biggest thing, this is the number 1 thing that will destroy your relationship. Which one of these turning is it? One is worse than... It's the turning away. Because if they're yelling at you, at least they're engaging the relationship still. No, I mean, that's honest. The relationship is still enough to fight over. It's when they start turning away is when you're just sending signals, I want nothing to do with you. Right? And so in your friendships, in your marriages, what you want to do is anytime your partner gives you a bid for connection, put your stupid phone down and be like, yes, what did you want? Right? Because this causes us to turn away from people constantly. We're like, I'm busy, I can't, I need to send this email real quick. And every time you do that, you're churning away from the relationship. And every time you turn away from the relationship, you know what it tells the people?
Something's more important.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to have a relationship with you. Right? So get in the habit of when somebody smiles at you, smile back. When somebody nods, anytime you see a bid for connection, respond by turning towards. Right? And sometimes this is what the turning towards can be. You're on the phone, you got a huge email, hey honey, you're like, babe, I would love to, I just need to do something real quick. Right? That is a turning towards. You're engaging me, and I'm turning towards you and saying, yes, give me 2 minutes. Instead of just like, okay. Okay, fine, I will. Does that make sense? So, what did we cover? Friendship is the foundational. Time and vulnerability. If you want to date, you need to get good at building good friendships. If you are married, you need to get good at investing in your friendship. Figure out what kind of conflict style you and your partner want to have, right? Start to assume the best. When you catch yourself, some of you are more negative than the others. When you catch yourself, start assuming something. I'm going to assume the best about this person right now, right? And then turning towards people, constantly turn towards people, right? Lastly, before we go into the questions, if you really want to have amazing relationships, there's one thing you can do. You all know what I'm going to say. Come to Impact. Come to Impact. The reason why we do these events is to expose you to some of the things God can do in and through your heart. If you want to be transformed radically, if you want your life to be completely different, your relationships to be extraordinary, you can do that a lot of places, but it will happen very quickly, quicker than almost anywhere else here at Impact. So come, put it on your calendar. March 7th through March 10th is our Vision Week. You don't have to sign up for the program to come. You can just come and see if God has something for you or not. All right? And now, Emily, come on up. Emily's going to answer questions.